Ceasefire in place, the crisis in West Asia is only deepening with new developments unfolding in the region every minute. Within just the 24 hours of announcing the decision, Iran has announced the reclosure of the Strait of Hormuz. UK's maritime agency has reported of gunfire targeting at least 2 merchant vessels attempting to navigate the crucial waterway. Now, according to the agency, a container ship is also hit by an unknown projectile in northeast of Oman, causing damage to some containers. As the Battle of Hormuz rages on, Iran's supreme leader, Mojtaba, has issued a fresh warning that Tehran's navy is ready to defeat U.S. forces. In a statement issued on his Telegram channel, Mojtaba, who has not been seen in public since before the start of the war, said, and I quote, "Brave Navy stands ready to make the enemies taste the bitterness of new defeats." With this new development, tensions between Iran and the United States appear to be escalating once again. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister has asserted that the Americans cannot impose their will over Iran with a siege, clarifying that no date is set for the next round of talks with the United States. Iran's military command has declared that it would resume strict management of the Strait of Hormuz and warned that it would continue to block the transit through the strait as long as the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports remains in effect. The announcement came as maritime tracking sites showed several ships making a dash through the narrow waterway. Iran's state broadcaster, the IRIB, says that 2 Indian vessels have been turned back from the strait. This as they were trying to make their way through the Strait of Hormuz. It added that firing was involved in turning back the ships. IRIB also stated that one of the 2 Indian vessels was a VLCC supertanker which was carrying 2 million barrels of oil from Iraq. There are just 4 days remaining before the end of the 2-week ceasefire in the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran, and the latest escalation is no good sign at the moment. However, President Trump appears convinced that a deal with Iran could be finished shortly. On Friday, both Trump and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi announced that the Strait of Hormuz was open. Trump had initially welcomed the news, but he said that the U.S. would not be lifting its blockade of Iranian ports. Mr. Chris Doyle is the Director of Council for Arab-British Understanding and the current lead of spokesperson for the Council. He's now joining us live from London. Mr. Doyle, it's good to see you and welcome. What's your assessment of this feud between President Trump and Iran over the Strait of Hormuz and the battle over who has the authority over this crucial waterway?
Well, it's quite an extraordinary series of events, and frankly, all too predictable after yesterday's announcements, because when the Iranian foreign minister said the strait was open and the US response was our blockade remains in place, then it was almost guaranteed that we would see the reimposition of the Iranian measures. Even then, we had the IRGC, the Iranian military, saying, yes, the blockade is lifted, but ships will have to go through the Iranian designated routes with the permission of the IRGC. So it actually hadn't changed a great deal. So it's really unclear what the 2 sides were expecting to happen. It's almost as if President Trump believed by saying the Strait of Hormuz was open that it magically would be. So now we're back into this standoff. The global economy is dependent upon it, with the impending deadline for the end of the ceasefire this Wednesday. So will that be the moment of a resumption of overt hostilities? Who knows? I think what we have seen, though, is that the United States, President Trump himself, wants to avoid going back to war. He might not say so, but I think all his actions can only be explained, really, by that premise. And even if he does resume bombing, it will only be to reset the pieces on the table to try to push to a deal that he can accept.
Mr. Chris Doyle, hold on to that thought because there's some breaking news that has just come in our newsroom at this hour. Just hold on. I'll come back to you later.